Welcome to On the Beat, everyone. I'm Troy Thompson. In the studio with me today is Bill Gillis and Elizabeth Jones with Crowell, Gillis and Cooper. And today we're continuing our conversation about wills and estate planning. Welcome back to the show, my friends. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us back.
Okay, we've talked about wills and estate planning in previous segments, but I also want to talk about trusts. Why do we need them, and should everyone have a trust?
Well, a trust is another option to having a will. A revocable living trust is one type of trust, and in that sort of trust you place all your assets in the name of your living trust, and that way upon your death the assets will pass according to whom you named in your trust document rather than to other people specifically.
Okay, who's controlling that trust?
Well, typically with a revocable trust, the grantor, who's the person who sets the trust up, will be his or her own trustee. And then there's a provision in there to provide for a successor in the event the grantor becomes unable or unwilling to serve.
Okay, well, you did say that this is one option of trust. Are there many other options when it comes to trusts?
There are, and another typical example is a testamentary trust, where people who have young children, rather, would leave their assets to the children in a testamentary trust, which would take effect upon their death. In Mississippi, you only can receive assets once you turn 21, and if you don't have a testamentary trust name, then your family would have to be required to open a guardianship with the court to handle that money. With the testamentary trust, you can name a trustee to handle the funds or for the children, and then it would pass upon the ages of your choosing to your children.
Okay, so just because they turn 21 doesn't mean they automatically get it if the will says or the trust states that they can receive a benefit at 25 or 30 or 35.
And that's very important because most children now that seek higher education are still in college beyond age 21. So typically you wouldn't want the children to have their inheritance at 21 and perhaps squander it and not be able to continue their education. So you can extend beyond age 21 to whatever age you deem appropriate for your children. And one thing that we do a lot of times is to provide a split distribution, a certain portion at one age, a few years later another portion. That way, if the beneficiary is foolish and squanders the first portion of it, they might do a little bit better the next go around.
I have some friends that have just recently passed away and their children have squandered everything. It's sad because they just weren't used to handling that type of money or those assets.
Exactly.
How do we set up a trust to begin with, apart from coming to see both of you?
Well, first of all, there's no canned trust or formed trust.
What does a canned trust mean? Do you mind if I jump in there?
Sure. There's no one-size-fits-all formed trust that would work for every family situation, and it's important to meet with an attorney who can examine your assets, take an inventory, determine your family relationships, and set up a trust according to, or a will according to your needs.
Well, who handles the trust once it's put together?
Well, as we talked about earlier, if the grantor wants to be his or her own trustee, they can do that in the revocable trust.
Right.
As far as a testamentary trust, you can have a family member or a friend that you think is qualified to take care of those affairs, or financial institutions provide those services as well.
What happens if I forget something when we're building the trust and I've passed away and my children say, well, hold on, Dad also had this over here?
Sure. Well, in a revocable living trust, we always create a document called a pour-over will, and that just simply states that anything you failed to name, to retitle into the name of the trust, will pass to the trust.
Okay, so it's pretty simple to go backwards and fix that up.
It is.
All right, well, we thank you for both coming in again. Thank you so much. If you want to find out more information or you need some information about your estate planning or wills, there's all the information up on the screen. Bill and Elizabeth will take care of you. We'll be back after this short break.